This is Monocle Fashion, a show on Monocle Radio offering global perspectives and nuanced conversation on the worlds of fashion and style. I'm your host, Fernando Augusto Pacheco, standing in for Natalie Teodosi. On today's program, we're taking you on a tour across continents, beginning in Paris with the latest from Men's Fashion Week.
It was very intoxicating, sitting there and absorbing all of it.
Then across the Atlantic to Santo Domingo, for a visit to the pioneering Jenny Polanco boutique in the Dominican Republic.
Thinking globally, but working locally, giving opportunity to new designers to be part of the Jenny Polanco's brand.
And we finish in the far north, in Greenland, where we meet the Nuuk designer crafting sealskin outerwear and musk ox knitwear.
It feels like everyone is looking at Greenland at the moment.
That's all ahead here on Monocle on Fashion. Men's Fashion Week has just wrapped up in Paris, and as a result, Monocle's associate editor of design and fashion, Grace Charlton, is back at the office. She joined me to share her highlights. Lovely Grace, good to have you in studio.
I know, it's so nice to be back and see you in person.
Well, last week we were discussing Milan Men's Fashion Week, but this time let's talk about Paris. I think it's finished, but of course it's the most important, I would say, Men's Fashion Week. And it happened in quite an interesting period because everybody had their eyes in Davos and what was happening there politically. What was the mood on the ground like?
Yeah, it was an interesting time for a fashion week to be taking place. I mean, a fashion week, it's a spectacle. It always feels a little bit out of touch, perhaps, but that definitely felt extra relevant. But the thing is, fashion touches upon, industry, economics, what's happening in Davos, what Trump does with tariffs. That really has real life effects on these designers and the people who work in the industry. So obviously it was a topic of conversation, but compared to maybe last year when it was still quite shocking what was happening with the tariffs, this year it felt like there was more resolve from designers and just sort of put your head down, get back to work, just power through sort of attitude.
And that was shown in the clothes as well, because I was reading your piece at the Monocle Minute saying that, there was almost a celebration of the mundane, the clothes you would wear for your work commute, for example.
Yeah, I really liked the Louis Vuitton collection by Pharrell Williams. I'm intrigued to hear what you thought about it, but it was a lot of these salary men in grey suits and holding briefcases and going back to work. And the music was very much bravado and sort of that superstar energy that Pharrell Williams has brought to the house, and it was very intoxicating sitting there and sort of absorbing all of it. What did you think of the collection?
I love it, and I think it's just it's showing that not necessarily just the suit, but tailoring is back. And I think there was a time a few years ago where everything was sportswear and people saying the way men dress is changing, but I think it's kind of going back a little bit to its roots, and not just to Louis Vuitton, other brands as well.
So many ties. People were really wearing the full tie with the shirt buttoned up, double-breasted suit, tailored trousers, loafers. It was very formal.
I welcome that. What's your take?
I know. I haven't seen you rock up to the office in a tie, but maybe in a few weeks.
A tuxedo you did.
A tuxedo, of course. I've seen you in a bow tie, but not just a tie for the Monday morning work shift.
Well, besides Louis Vuitton, what was your other highlights? Of course, I've seen quite a lot of shows that I liked. Of course, Le Maire. Hermès, I think, is quite a good story.
Hermès.
I mean, it was her final show as well.
Yeah, it was Véronique Nichagnon's final show after 37 years at the brand. That's insane. 37 years of being on that circuit, delivering collection after collection. What's really nice about this story as well is that she's truly leaving on her own terms. Apparently the Maison even asked her to stay a little bit longer, but she said no, it's time. She's in her 70s, and I hope she'll enjoy her retirement, whatever it might look like. But the collection was just perfection. It was very sleek, lots of leather as is expected with Hermès. That is what they master the best. But she also included pieces from the 90s that she had designed, or the 2000s, or the 2010s. There was even a boombox-inspired bag from 1988, which is when she joined. So it was nice to see a little bit of sort of self-indulgent nostalgia, because if you can't do it on your, upon retirement, when can you?
Absolutely. I have to ask you, what did you think of Dior with Jonathan
Ooh.
Anderson? It's always a big topic, right?
Yeah, I am intrigued. I don't think the collection was for me, and I do question who it is for.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate Jonathan Anderson trying different concepts, and he's said that the first, I think, 5 collections he'll do for the brand might not please everybody. And that's for sure what he achieved last week. What did you think?
No, some pieces were quite outre, and maybe actually goes a little bit different what we were talking about, the salary man from Louis Vuitton as well. We felt, I think it's valid questions for who this collection was for.
Yeah, he said his inspiration was like young aristocrats, like flâning around Paris. And I
can
was
see
like,
that.
Okay, but what youths have the money, and do they want to wear polo shirts with embroidered epaulettes on their shoulders? I don't know.
You've enjoyed Ami as well, right?
Yeah, Ami is it's a French brand, very Parisian, and what they brought to the runway was like a total cross section of what you would see on the Boulevard Saint-Germain, or like one of those big streets in Paris. You had like the sort of students in their hoodies and the wired headphones. A lot of models were wearing wired headphones, which really cracked me up because I know we both use them to walk around.
Always. I think it's more chic, actually.
I think it is chic. And there were lots of like women in leopard print jackets and skirts and stuff. And I always remember someone once telling me that leopard print should be treated as a neutral. Apparently that's like a French mindset.
Love that.
So you can wear it almost as like you wear black or white or a stripe or something like that. So it was fun. But yeah, again, very like much a celebration of normality, like just the everyday.
That's exactly what I just wrote. We were in sync because I think that shows for Milan and for Paris as well. I think maybe that's good a little bit for the fashion industry to have a men's fashion week season like that, right?
But it's interesting because the fashion industry is doubling down on their very important clients, and the people like the mid-market isn't there as much. Like they're really focusing on the top tier level of customers who are not normal people if they can afford these clothes. I went to Les Galeries Lafayette, which is a big department store in Paris, and the January sales were on, but it was really empty. And I was just like, oof, where are the customers? Are these people the ones inspiring the collections by designers and then can't afford the clothes? Do you see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it is sort of a strange situation we found ourselves in, and the luxury industry has found itself in, especially as they, sort of ride out the waves of uncertainty by inflating prices a little bit higher so they can make sure that their margins are continually growing. There's something aesthetically, and then there's the actual economic reality, and they're actually sort of very opposed at the moment.
That should be a Monocle fashion special later in the year. And finally, Grace, first of all, thank you. Always great chatting with you. We also had, in recent days, the funeral of the iconic Valentino as well. It's interesting. It's fascinating to see everyone who attended. I mean, he was one of the legends, right? There's not many people like him anymore.
No, for sure. And he was very unapologetic and charismatic.
And you're wearing red today,
I'm
I have to
wearing
say.
my Valentino red. This is actually vintage Prada. But I remember he said something like, I like beauty, like what's the problem? He was very much about wanting to make clothes that made women feel amazing. And, it's funny that sometimes that doesn't seem to be the priority with designers, but he was so well respected, so well loved. Truly a legend lost.
That was Grace Charlton, Monocle's Associate Editor of Design and Fashion. Now, the best-known fashion name from the Dominican Republic is undoubtedly Oscar de la Renta, though his career was made in New York, far from his native island. That wasn't the case for Jenny Polanco, who helped define what made in the Dominican Republic could look like when she launched her label in the 80s. Today, the brand is run by her daughter, and creative direction sits with Dominican-Colombian designer Carolina Socías. Monocle's Seattle correspondent Gregory Scruggs recently stopped by a Jenny Polanco boutique in Santo Domingo, and began by asking Socías how Dominican women dressed when Jenny first arrived on the scene.
So back in the 80s, we were colonized by Spanish. So we are very influenced by this European style. So a well-dressed woman usually was styling her clothes with velvet and silk. Imagine yourself living in the island, very hot weather, wearing velvet. So it was something that she always talked about, like, let's be real to what we are. So that's why she started designing these clothing, very elegant and tailored, because the style of Jenny Polanco is like tailoring the linen. It's very specific, the way we work the linen. So she started to talk about being Dominican without saying you are Dominican, through the clothing, through the styling, and through the fabrics she was choosing for her collections.
We're here in the boutique with a number of pieces, dresses, tops, sleeveless, suitable again for the hot weather here. Can you show me some of those specific details? How do you tailor linen, and how is that different from typical approaches to working with that material?
Tailoring linen, it's working with this fabric that is usually used at flowy style, not with cuts, not taking in consideration the woman's silhouette. So in Jenny, we do work with stylings and cuts and forms that make women look better. So this is a safari dress. We always have this capsule in the collections, which is inspired in safari, where you can have all the buckets, the amber bottoms, which is something very particular in Jenny Polanco's world. We work a lot with the artisans in Santiago. They design and they craft our buttons, so they're very unique. So this is something very special that is found in our clothing. Sometimes they come with gifts. You can see a mosquito, or you can feel you have a leaf inside, because the resin comes from the tree. So we have story in our buttons. But going back to the tailoring, you can see where you can have cuts, where you can have a way of flowing in the body that will always make the woman look better.
And cinching at the waist as well, right, with the built-in sash.
Yes. Dominicans Latinas, let's talk globally. Latinas like to feel they are fitted. They don't want to look like if they thrown a fabric. No, they like to feel well seen, you know? It's something about us Latinas. We are very chic, and we like to feel pretty.
So the linen comes from abroad, but the talent to cut and tailor, to transform those bolts of cloth into these beautiful pants and dresses and blouses that are surrounding us here in the boutique. Tell me about the talent pool that exists for actual cutting, tailoring, sewing here in the Dominican Republic, and to what extent did, over the years, Jenny Polanco help grow that pool of talented fashion industry workers?
Okay, a very important asset in the core of Jenny Polanco is the people, so the team. So she started building her team. Until now, we have people that have 30 years in the brand working with Jenny. So she worked very hard into building this team that has the level and the understanding of working the linen the way she envisioned it. So yes, we do work with Dominican talents. It's part of our DNA, and that's the important thing of thinking globally but working locally, giving opportunity to new designers, new pattern makers to be part of the Jenny Polanco's brand.
So your brand has been working with some of your pattern makers and designers for decades, many of whom worked closely with Jenny Polanco in those early days, but they will soon near retirement. So how do you ensure that institutional knowledge is transferred to the next generation of designers and pattern makers who will come to work for Jenny Polanco, the brand, without having ever worked with Jenny Polanco, the person?
So we are in this important moment of the brand where we are working in this transition of information, this institutional knowledge, where we have this new group of designers and pattern makers that work together by side from the generation that had the opportunity of having Jenny as a mentor, so they can feel and understand what is the brand's point of view of the design. So yeah, we are working on that, which is very important for us, so we don't lose the story behind the brand.
How do you work with craftspeople here in the Dominican Republic to produce some of the accessories, the jewelry as well, beyond the buttons in amber?
So for us in Jenny Polanco, in our collection process, building our collection, is very important to include artisans in our designs. We are trying to preserve this culture of artesanía in our country. You know, when you walk here in Zona Colonial, you will see the shop nearby selling artesanía made in China. So it's important for us in our work to give the opportunity to artisans to keep working and work with us. It's funny because I learned working with Jenny that the magic comes when the designer works with the artisans, because the artisans have the know-how, but the designer has the knowledge and the vision. So when you work the artisan and the designer, the result is magical. So that's what we try to do, working with the guayacán, which is the wood, the national wood of the Dominican Republic, and we craft home goods in Guayacán. We also use the horn. We give a second opportunity of the horns that are taken from the cow and thrown away in the market. The artisan takes the horn, and we give this second opportunity designing beautiful things that are made of trash. In that same line, we build this project, which is the Osama bag, working directly with women that do this fiber. There's a river here, which is called El Osama, Rio Osama. It's so polluted that because of the pollution, it grows a flower. So the roots of the flower are dried to build this fiber. So from this first idea of building this fiber, we work directly with the artisans building the Osama bag. So we are taking this trash from the ocean, giving opportunity of work to a community that lives near the river, and for us building this beautiful, majestic bag.
When Jenny started back in the 1980s, it sounds like there was less of an appreciation for Dominican craftsmanship. Flash forward to today, and there's now a national program to encourage and support these traditional skills and crafts. Surely Jenny Polanco is not the only one responsible for that change, that newfound recognition, but it sounds like she played an important role in convincing her own countrymen and countrywomen and leadership at the highest levels to appreciate and valorize these traditional skills.
Jenny Polanco, she was obviously a very important person in the cultural and fashion world in Dominican Republic because she had a voice. And through her work, without having no sponsorship of the government, she built around her brand all this, now we can say now programs. She was like a foundation. She was herself a foundation. And now her daughter has a fundación, which is called Jenny Polanco por las Artes. She's now doing what her mom did, like for pleasure, as a foundation. So she's starting initiatives that in the end had a bigger scale of a vision. So for me, she had a vision that she didn't even notice it, because now everything has a name. You can say sustainable, but in the 80s you were not talking about sustainability, and she was working in sustainability without not having the word or the description of it. But in the end, Jenny was bigger than she ever thought.
That was Carolina Socías, a creative director of Jenny Polanco, speaking with Monocle's Gregory Scruggs. To read his full story on the brand, pick up the February issue of Monocle, out now. And finally, from the Caribbean to the Arctic, over the past week, global attention has turned north, with Greenland firmly on the agenda. Monocle was there on the ground in Nuuk, speaking with business owners about the practical impact of this new spotlight. One of them is Mia Chemnitz, co-owner of Kivyut, a shop in the center of Nuuk known for sealskin anoraks, boots and musk ox knitwear. She's shown Monocle's contributing editor Andrew Muller around the store.
The company is almost 20 years old. My mother started it, and then I'm slowly taking over. We started in Sisimiut, which is a little bit further north, and then we expanded with Nuuk, and then now we have everything in Nuuk. So we have our store here and the whole production, because we make everything ourselves.
And so you're taking over slowly the family business. Did you learn how to make this stuff growing up?
Yeah, the knitting part I learned, I think even almost before I could walk. And then I took formal education in the sewing part and the pattern making, sizing, stuff like that.
And is that taught here in Greenland, or do you have to go somewhere else for that?
No, it's not taught in Greenland. I had to go to Denmark to study that.
But are the techniques you use, would you describe them as largely traditional Greenlandic ones?
Yes, you could kind of say that. There are some of the traditional techniques that you can never do on a machine, that would have to be hand sewn, and I don't do that. But also it's very different working in skin than in fabric. There are a lot of, you have to do it differently.
Is there a way to quantify that difference for listeners who may have worked in fabric but in sealskin perhaps not so much?
Well, you can think of sealskin as leather. Once you make a hole, the hole is there forever. So every time the needle goes in, it has to be correct. And then everything has to be, I don't know the English technical words, but you can only sew the edge hem. So everything is inside out when you sew it, and you can only do the edges. And then you turn it out, and it has to look beautiful. It has to be right.
But how long and complicated a process is it to learn how to do that? Because as you're saying, this has got to be a fairly high stakes learning process, because once you make a mistake, you can't unmake it.
Yeah, and the materials are expensive. So it's all the way from how do you draw up a seal? When you flip it over and you draw on it, you need to know the seal quite well to know which parts are dark and which parts are light, and you have to mix and match everything. And like when I make a noak, a jacket, I use 7 seals for this, and all seals are different. They have different tones and patterns and stuff like that, and the finished anorak has to look like it's one seal. So I can spend hours just sorting my stock of sealskin before I start cutting the pieces.
Because you want the finished thing to look like a unified garment,
yes.
Like it all came from the same place.
Yes.
Where do you go about sourcing the sealskin from?
There is only one place to do it here in Greenland. There is a government-owned tanning facility, and they have to buy all sealskin that the hunters want to provide. And that is located in South Greenland. So I buy about 4,000 or 5,000 sealskin from them every year. And we only want to use Greenlandic seal because then we know it's a sustainable hunt, and that these animals were hunted for the meat and not for the skin. And also, I don't think that there's anyone in the world that are actually better at tanning seal than this specific facility in South Greenland.
Well, in the store around us, there's quite a lot of sealskin items. Who are the market for that now? Are they mostly worn for their appearance, or do you still believe that the sealskin material is better for keeping people warm and dry than any synthetics?
I don't think it's something that I believe. It's something that I know. The seal has been key to life in the Arctic, ever since people came here. I don't think that a lot of technical tests have been done on seal. I don't know about them. But I trust the knowledge and the lived experience of the hunters that wear seal. It's still... Like, if I was to go hunting on ice, or if I was to go dog sledding in a blizzard, I would still always feel safer wearing seal than anything synthetic that you could get. So I trust the material.
Well, I guess it's been keeping seals warm and dry this long.
This is our anorak, which is quite traditional here in Greenland. This anorak, the word comes from Greenlandic. It's anorak. It means something that you put on over your head, so it doesn't open in the middle. But it's a jacket that you pull over your head, and it has details where you can kind of adjust to wind and snow conditions. And it has a pocket where, when you have like an iPhone and it gets really, really cold, it freezes and then the battery dies. So you try to get everything close to your own skin to keep your batteries warm. And we have thought of all those details in this one. And this is mainly bought by hunters.
Okay.
Yeah.
So for an anorak like that, how many individual seal pelts would have gone into that?
Well, depending on the size, this one is made in the natural color. So this is quite big. So I think that I probably used about 6 or 7 seals in this one. Whenever we make something in black, which is, obviously dyed, then we don't need as many seals to go into one product.
Because you're not having to match the pelt,
No,
so
exactly.
okay.
So when you look at this one, you can't see that it's 7 different animals in one.
How long is the process from start to finish of assembling something like this? And is it just you or are other people involved?
It depends on whether or not you count in the hunt.
Okay.
Because a hunter had to go out, shoot the seal, what do you call it? Patsea.
Skin it?
Skin it.
Yep.
Yes. And then the seal skin has to go to the tanning facility in Qaqortoq. If the hunter lives in North Greenland or in East Greenland, which he might, then the seal skin has to stay there and wait for the ice to melt so the ship can come and get it. Might be half a year already then. But my working process on a piece like this is about a couple of days.
And is the market for something like that still mostly Greenlandic? Are you noticing sort of more and more people arriving from overseas and thinking they'd like to take one home with them?
Yeah, we are. I think that big pieces like this are still mainly Greenlandic. But we have smaller items that, can go anywhere in the world.
There's a lot of other material here that we can see around the store, and a lot of other garments. What other kind of materials do you work with?
Well, really what we're known for is the muskox wool. Reviewed, the company name, means muskox wool. The muskox wool is one of the warmest natural fibers that you can get in the world. It's measured to be up to 8 times warmer than sheep's wool. So it's really, really, really good. And it's soft, and it doesn't trigger the same allergies as many other wools do. And obviously it's a very limited resource, as we can only use the wool from the animals that we hunt and that we eat. So even though we're quite small, we are the largest producer in the world of this muskox wool.
This is for relative summer wear?
No. Well, I wear them in the summer if I want to wear dresses here at the store, because it never really gets warm here. Okay. These are, you could say that they are shorts, but made out of muskox wool. And the reason I really wanted to show you this item is that one of the great qualities of the muskox wool is that it can help with chronic pain diseases, such as arthritis. It doesn't heal a broken leg, but it can really give rest to people that are experiencing a lot of pain. And also, if you have period pain, these are great.
Does anyone, or are we clear what qualities about muskox wool do have that additional benefit of pain relief?
Well, one thing is the heat.
Okay.
Everyone likes to put on something really warm on an area that's in pain. But studies in Canada have shown that, I don't know if I can explain this in English, but that the ions...
Yeah, IONS.
Yeah. Like if you have arthritis in your elbow, then when the blood rushes through that area, that all the ions turn into negative loading. Does that make sense?
A bit.
Yeah. This adds to the feeling of pain.
Okay.
And what they've discovered is that no matter how you treat muskox wool, it's always positive. So this is an added pain relief factor. We buy the hides from the hunters directly, and then we take it to our workshop, and then we comb the wool off the hide. And it takes a couple of hours for each hide, and then we get about 800 grams of wool from one animal. So it's very, very lightweight. And then we clean the wool by hand, and then it has to be shipped. At the moment, it has to be shipped to Germany to be spun, because we don't have spinning facilities in Greenland yet. We are working on it. And then it's spun there, and it has to come back to us. But that's a month each way, just sailing and, being shipped around. And because Greenland is not part of Europe, we have to send our wool in a separate container. We have to have vet documents following the wool, stating that this comes from healthy animals. We don't carry diseases here. And then it comes back to us, and then I start dyeing the wool, and then we knit.
So the process for that go into a pair of shorts like that is how...
At least half a year.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to be very patient if you want to work in these materials.
Have you noticed in the last year or so, given the attention focused on Greenland, if for unfortunate reasons, that there's been any sort of proportionate uptick in interest in what you and other Greenlandic manufacturers are making?
Yes, we do see that. It feels like everyone is looking at Greenland at the moment, and a lot of people are also trying to show support, and many choose to do that supporting Greenlandic businesses. And we're a Greenlandic business, and we have a local production, so it's very evident and easy for people to spot that this is, if you support a business like ours, then you're very directly supporting the Greenlandic economy.
That was Mia Chemnitz, co-owner and designer at Kivut, speaking with Monocle's contributing editor, Andrew Muller. And that's it for today's program. Join us next week for more Fashion Week dispatches and in-depth interviews. The episode was produced and edited by Lily Austin. I'm Fernando Augusto Pacheco. Thanks for listening.